Hey guys, now I want to follow up. Okay, so this is the post earnings report of the SMCI earnings on November 6th. And first of all, I did this video that was the conspiracy theory was my conspiracy theory video on what's really going on with the SMCI. Then today I finally had a chance to look at the earnings, listen to the earnings call, and read a whole bunch of articles. And guess what? The way they acted in the earnings call was exactly pretty much how I expected they would act if this conspiracy theory that was in this video I did earlier was true. It was exactly their behavior, which was, you could kind of feel was, first of all, they wanted to do this meeting as early as as they don't want to delay this meeting, because I think if they delayed this earnings report meeting, there would be a lot more expectations. They would expect to be not as vague as they were in this meeting. So that was one thing that you can kind of tell in these things, that get this meeting early to give us an excuse to kind of be as vague as we could, and once we're done today, we got 3 more months before the next earnings report that we can try to fix this thing, that we can kind of pay back my brothers and all that kind of stuff. So that's what it felt like. And you could see that also. Some other hints, right, was how in the meeting they first say, oh, we're not going to answer questions on the Ernst and Young's situation, or that whole deal, right? And they kind of shut it down, and then exactly. Okay, so like this is typical Charles. He's always going to start. Okay, he's always going to start the meeting with something that he just kind of hopes kind of recover the stock. He hopes people are stupid enough to kind of, oh, that sounds great, in the stock shoot up. So I'll tell you this. So last earnings report, the slimiest thing he did, and it tricked a lot of people initially on the beginning, was, oh, we're doing that 10-for-1 stock split that everybody always wanted and asked about. But then the investors were smart. They were like, oh crap, so the stock shot up, and then we're like, wait a second, the margins aren't looking good, and the stock tanked back down. And this time what he tried to do was, oh, we had this external audit committee that that was created by the chair, the board members, and they did their 3-month investigation, and they found no evidence of fraud. Oh, and by the way, they this week they're going to publish the report either this week or next week, and yeah, instead of waiting to find that report and then have the earnings, they purposely, so that they didn't have to answer questions on that report, they were like, okay, we're gonna have this freaking earnings call now, keep it vague, and then we'll just publish the reports after. I mean, it's so typical what you expect if this conspiracy theory were true, right? So, okay, so, and of course, we weren't stupid. The stock did not freaking shoot up when maybe it did shoot up when he said that remark, but no, but the numbers already came out by then. Anyways, it just tanked. Anyways, but we weren't stupid, right? So we didn't buy on that. And okay, so let me go ahead and get to the kind of the okay. So the other thing was that was just so slimy of them was, and by the way, you could tell in their tone, they already had this well planned. They already had this well planned. Like, we gotta stick to our guns. You could tell their tone was, so every time. Okay, and the classic trick, right, is, oh, because we're we don't have like a auditor, therefore we can't give you 1 year of guidance. It's because, man, they can't give you. It's because that they need that 1 year, the 3 months or whatever, to kind of hopefully correct this thing when they pay back the brothers. That's what I feel like is happening, right? So that's why they don't want to, but they're trying to disguise that slow payment back to their brothers but then covering this with, oh yeah, because we don't have the auditors, where therefore we can't give you 1 year's of annual guidance. So it gets them off the hook of giving that guidance. Plus, and you know how they always say, oh, because these are unaudited results, and these are they keep using, they use the word preliminary, not just to kind of, so that in the future when they get in trouble they can say, oh well, we said preliminary and all that crap. So anyways, okay. But right now, I do believe they are trying to step up and trying to get into PR control mode. So, like I said earlier, their goal was to make the stock, a few months ago, just pump up so they can get the good share dilution price. So they're gonna get a whole bunch of cash from that, which I think was about like 2 billion or something like that. And then they further did the convertible notes, which I think got another 1.5 billion, whatever. So they got a whole bunch of cash at a great deal. But anyways, then okay, so they got their mission accomplished. So that's why they weren't so really need to come out, and because they knew the stock was going to tank. I mean, if it didn't tank, that they win too. But they knew it was going to kind of tank. So that's why you could tell in the meeting, based on their voice, they didn't really. To me, they didn't sound apologetic. Because I feel like if you were like, oh God, we did something wrong, it wasn't part of the plan or whatever, they would have been way more apologetic. Think about CrowdStrike, right? I feel like when CrowdStrike had their huge outage, right? You saw the CEO come out. Next, the CEO was, I forget his name, like Richard Kurtz or whatever. But he looked tired. He looked haggard, and they addressed it the next day, like unlike SMCI, because man, like I'm saying, I think SMCI was all part of the plan. It's all part of the plan, man. Okay, now I think what I want to do is show you, like the guys who asked questions in this meeting. Man, they were good questions, but you see like how slimy those guys, the Charles, and how they kind of, so they weren't even answering the question. A lot of the times they weren't even answering the question, right? And it's just ridiculous. So like, okay, so here's the let's see, let's go to the Q&A. So they said a whole bunch of things, and this is a thing that really kind of, if any guys, okay, hold on, I think I'm okay. So if you guys have ways to prove that, because I think the only way to prove, because my whole thesis, hold on a second, is that they're paying high prices to the brother companies right now, right, for the parts of the servers. But it'd be nice if there was a way to prove that. But unfortunately, I mean, through the earnings, but unfortunately, because they don't report how many servers they sold, there's no way for me to try to do the math and say, oh yeah, that proves that they, the margins. Because again, no surprise, right? This time the margins were a little bit disappointing that they reported. It's because, and they made some excuse of, part of my conspiracy is they're making excuses of why that the revenue was down or whatever, all that kind of stuff. So we'll get into that, right? But if there's some way that this thing could have reported, number of servers sold, at what price, what were the the margins for each server sold. And if they did this consistently throughout the last 2 or 3 years, we would have had a way to prove if they were charging ridiculous. I mean, they were getting charged ridiculous prices to the brother companies. I think there would have been a way to do that. But unfortunately, because they don't report server counts like that, I think it's really hard to do that. I mean, the only way to do that, I guess, would be if we somehow had access to the Ernst & Young, when they were auditing and they were looking at the what's it called, the invoices or something like that. If we had access to those invoices, then maybe we could prove this or not. But unfortunately, we don't. Okay, so the theme is in the Q&A section, right? Was they always kept sticking to one excuse of why. Okay, so maybe it's true or not, but of why the revenue was disappointing or why they had to guide down. Or like I said, I kept saying this because they're waiting for the Blackwell. That it wasn't their fault. It was the Blackwell's chips limited release or whatever that is. That's our liquid cooling's ready, but dang, we don't have the chip. Therefore, that's why the revenue was disappointing. But to me, because I don't know if there's a way to prove how many servers they sold. maybe they did send a report of that. But anyways, my conspiracy theory is actually it's not even that. It's because they're paying higher. They're paying higher costs. I mean, they're getting overcharged for those liquid cooling pieces or fans or chassis or from their brother companies. So that's what I think is going. But now I think what they're probably doing is, based on my conspiracy theory, is that they're hiding this by saying, "Oh, the revenue is disappointing because we did not get the sell these servers because of the Blackwell chips." I forgot to mention is that the auditor thing. Okay, so this is kind of my conspiracy theory. So why don't they freaking because here they say they don't know when they're going to return to turn in 10K report, and also there's a deal where they could I think they have two options, right? Either turn in the 10K report by November, was it 16 or I'm getting these days confused, but whatever, it's like sometime this month, right? Or work with NASDAQ to have a path toward not getting delisted. Work with NASDAQ on an agreed upon plan with NASDAQ, and if they do this second path, they get another, like, it's insane. They can go to like March or something, like another several months, right? To like March to turn in this old 10K report that they haven't turned in. And I'm pretty sure, guys, they're going to do everything they can to do that second option, because that way they can make it super, far away. They can start paying back their brothers and trying to, get under, just they want to try to prolong this as much as they can. Okay. Yeah, and it's a special committee investigations results. I'm very happy to share some positive information and deal with real. I mean, he just keeps going back to that. He keeps trying to hope that by saying, "Oh, the special committee had great results. There's no fraud today." And by the way, there is no fraud, right? Because if you see my conspiracy theory, there's no fraud. The numbers do check out. It's just that it's a little bit unethical how he got those margins high. Okay, yeah, and it's just like David Weigan, who's the CFO, right? He just he's like, because he knows what they've been doing, so he's like, you just, be strict, be like a robot. We have no update with respect to the timeline, blah 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 blah. He'll just say that when anybody tries to mention, you could tell he's really strict, because he, if this ever becomes a lawsuit, he didn't say anything wrong. He just you could just feel this yeah. Okay, yeah, guys, good effort. Thanks for taking it too. If I could. Yeah, the gross margin. Should we expect it to improve? So David says, we guided cautiously in the first quarter, and so we're glad that we can succeed it. And so, like fashion, we're guiding conservatively into the second quarter. But actually, what's really happening is because they know that they're paying their brothers to make sure their brothers don't go bankrupt. That's why they're actually not being cautious. In fact, if anything, they're kind of off. These guys are usually, when this is why I really hate about these guys, is that usually if it's really good news, I feel like they're super optimistic. They're super optimistic. And if it's bad news or they need to hide something, it feels like they'll make an excuse. They'll make an excuse like that they're trying to be diligent here. They're trying to they're trying to be what's the term? They're trying to be under they want to be they want to lower expectations, right? So that's just, we're going to lower expectations. But it's because, god damn it, they're taking that cash to pay back their brother's losses. Okay, so and by the way, what made me say earlier that I feel like they're when they got good news and they become over optimistic. Think about that. Was it a year ago, whatever? Anytime they would always pre-report when it was good news, when the pre-report earnings, when they knew the earnings were going to be good. And by the way, I'm not surprised if at the same time they use this to kind of hype up the stock and try to get it up so they can do those convertible notes. But every time they had good news, they would come out and just yell to the freaking moon and stuff like, hey, we we exceeded this thing, and then that stock pumps, and this is like 2 weeks before the actual earnings. They just get too excited. They get, the children on candy, right? And then they would do this until the freaking quarter, the earnings where they didn't report it, and it turned out, I think, I could be wrong on this, but I think it was the one that actually was kind of slightly disappointing. Oh, that's when the stock tanked. Well, first of all, the stock tanked when they realized that, hey, they're not pre-announcing earnings, so something bad must have happened. They didn't, and then later when the actual earnings came out, I believe, yeah, it wasn't a good result as before. So it's like, when they're not excited, when the results aren't exciting, we don't say anything. But when the results are great, we get so excited. We're gonna say it earlier. Now, the only thing I might be wrong on this is maybe that the time I was talking about was when they became part of what was it, S&P or something like that. Maybe there's some rule where you can't pre-announce. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what it felt like to me. That's what it felt like to me. It's just like, oh shoot, we're getting really excited because the earnings are good. The earnings are really good. I got to announce it to the world now. I can't wait. It's just okay. So the one thing I would say that maybe is kind of weird, that it's not easy. It's not easy that I can't really easily explain is. Okay, let's see how the stock's doing. Okay, so it's doing a little bit better. All right, so why don't they just go ahead and just, what's causing them to get an auditor as soon as possible, right? And the only thing I could think of, was thinking get the auditor as soon as possible and get that 10K report done. What's kind of delaying this whole thing? The only theory I have right now is, and they keep saying, oh yeah, we're still diligently trying to find one, diligently trying to find one. The only thing I think could be really happening is, and this would be terrible, is that they're probably, okay, so Ernst & Young, right, they're gone. And I think the previous one was Deloitte. So they're probably going to go to those other guys like KPMG, Price Waterhouse. These are like the famous guys. I think there's probably another one I'm forgetting. But they're probably already talking to them and saying, hey, can you be the new auditor? And then my guess is that those guys are like, oh, well, we'll be your new auditor, but you have to, because we're really suspicious of what happened between you guys and Ernst & Young. These are requirements. Like if you agree to these requirements, allow us to do this, ask these kind of questions or whatever, then we'll be your auditor. And probably some of these things, my guess is maybe SMCI, oh crap, some of those requirements, we don't want to do those things. So I think they're probably just kind of negotiating. So I think that's probably why they're struggling. Otherwise, if they got like KPMG, Price Waterhouse, something like that, oh man, they would have turned into and then work with them in the SMCI way. Oh, then SMCI would have turned in that taken report now, because like I say, they're on the point of where they need to do PR control, because they do need to try to, because then they keep this charade up, stuff is going to go to Dell or HPE, because now the concern is if they keep not doing the 10K report and the suspicion grows, people are not going to want to do business with Supermicro. They would rather pay the extra money to get the Dell or just do the HPE or whatever. So I think that's going to be their main concern. Okay, so that's pretty much it. That's my reaction to this post earnings report from SMCI. Like I said, I feel like they wanted to do it early. They knew, because they do it early. They have lots of, and they could be a little bit more vague as a result, because they wouldn't, they don't even have an auditor. They don't have a replacement auditor yet. So therefore, they can actually have all these excuses of why they can't go into the details in this thing. So again, I still feel like my conspiracy theory is still likely what's happening, and unless someone can come out and show the invoice showing that, hey, they are not, over time, right, the invoice of those parts from those brother companies, as long as they can show that, hey, they're not getting overcharged gradually, higher and higher and higher. If someone can show that, then okay, this conspiracy theory is dead. But other than that, I just feel like this conspiracy theory, what happened in the earnings report, solidified this conspiracy theory more, right? Instead of getting the overcharge from their brothers, let's go ahead and just kind of say, oh, it's because we missed, because we're waiting for this chip. Most customers want that Blackwell chip, and yeah, instead of, oh, the revenue, because they had to pay more for their parts. Okay, anyways, hopefully you enjoyed this update. I will go ahead and finish this meeting. Take care, guys.